Sorry about the late arrival on my part. So yeah, we can just go ahead and start all order of introductions. So go ahead and start down there.
Mike Disco, Flexible Maniacs. How's everybody doing tonight?
Dan Rodriguez, Sunwood Hardin.
Robin Baker, City of Plant City. Judith Berger, Planning Commission.
I've been, yeah.
Tim Horst, citizen at large.
Jim Sharp, citizen at large. Peter Devitt, citizen at large.
Glenn Watson, Environmental Protection Commission.
Kelly Fearon, City of Tampa.
Sally Thompson, citizen at large.
David Saletti, citizen at large.
Nolianda James, Department of Health.
John Kubicki, citizen at large.
Chris Fellerhoff, Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Plan.
Great. So next I'm going to turn it over to Gail to go ahead and do the roll call and also announce who's all here today. So Gail, you have the floor to do attendance.
Thank you, and I do apologize. There will be duplication as I do the attendance since you have done the introductions. Tim Horst.
Here.
Jim Shirk.
Here.
Katrina Corcoran.
Here.
Christopher Fellerhoff.
Here.
Abigail Flores. Savannah Vidal. Nolianda James.
Here.
Elaine Watson.
Here.
John Marsh. Kelly Fearon.
Here.
Carla Price. Jamie Morris. Robin Baker.
Here.
Jason Jackman.
Here virtually.
Jonathan Forbes is excused. Peter Davitt.
Here.
David Aylesworth. John Kubicki.
Here.
Faye Miller. Victoria Klug. Martin Santiago.
Here.
Sally Thompson.
Here.
Wanda Vinson is also excused. David Sidalidi.
Here.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Saletti.
Sidalidi, thank you. I'm checking online. David Aylesworth is here, and I'm shifting him over. And I think I have everybody. We do have an in-person quorum. Chair, would you please call for a vote of consent for remote participation?
Yep.
Um,
Good second.
I'm James Sharp, second.
All right. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, welcome all online participation members. I don't know if we have any today. But yeah.
And who made that original motion?
I did, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Tim Horst.
Okay, so you need to have somebody else make the motion, and then Jim can still second unless he wants to make it himself.
So moved. Watson.
All right, Alan made the motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so are you all finished there, Gail?
I am. Just make sure everybody speaks loud and clear and into those mics on the tables.
Okay, we'll do our best. Thanks for that reminder. So next we can go on to the public comment section. So if we have anyone in the audience or online, now's your time. Give your comment. All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and next go into members' interests. It's not on the agenda, but we typically do it. So if anyone has anything they'd like to bring up to the group for discussion, do that.
Walk by Tampa is having an event on May 11th at Coppertail Brewing. And if you're interested, just go to Walk by Campus Facebook page. It's free if you're challenged. tickets are $25 unless you want to sponsor something. It's $250 to get your name on things. But, if you want to attend, just come on down. And there'll be fun things to do and nice rides and everything. So May 11th, Thursday night. Come to Carbondale, it's a great place. They really support bicycling.
Peter Davitt. This Friday will be Critical Mass Tampa Bay, our April ride. We meet at Curtis Sixon Park, down by the bathrooms and the water fountain thing up front on Ashley. We'll ride at 8 o'clock, so we meet at 7:45. Ride at 8, 12-mile ride will be in Hyde Park, downtown, over to Igor, and Harbor Island, I think. Nice big loop. So come on out with your bike, we have fun, and it's reasonably safe, so thank you.
Pedestrian Worker and the Planning Commissioner rep, we are currently updating the unincorporated Hillsborough County future land use section. It's a very large section, was last significantly updated in 2008. So we're undergoing a significant public outreach as a part of that. And if you go to our website, in the scroll box, there is a survey that's out there. So if you live or work in unincorporated Hillsborough County, we'd love your feedback. There's a chance to win one of $500 gift cards if you do participate and put in some demographic information. But we've had, I want to say, over 1,600 survey responses so far. We'd love to have even more. There's a map in there that is very specific that has about 4,500 points of data. So we want even more data, and thank you for your consideration.
What's the website for that?
If you go on our Hillsborough website, it's in the scroll, but yeah.
Specifically for people that live or work in.
It's live, we advertise it as the worker place, so we're in the county a lot, but we're really aiming it towards where the ad doesn't.
How long is this survey open?
It is open until next Monday. We've been marketing it as April 30th, but technically if you get it in the weekend, you'll be good.
Ben and I were shooting emails back and forth this past week talking about the great presentation that we saw last week on the dangerous, say the barriers to bike and ped corridors that we all saw, and how we identified a lot of great natural bike-friendly, pedestrian-friendly corridors that exist on more local streets, and then talking about some of the barriers to those. So, I thought it'd be great if we could follow up on that, and, rather than being like, okay, we need to do all, we need to, go as broad as possible, implement them all. I thought it'd be great if we come up with a top 10 list, so that way we can try to prioritize, our efforts to communicate with the local governments and to try to get their backing on different things that, we felt like are great projects. So to do that, I'm just kind of brainstorming here, but I thought, we could each send in, say, 3, difficult intersections or barriers or locations from our knowledge and all, just, how we live, how we get around, and we could send them to Ben. Our top 3, and then he can kind of evenly weight them and see which ones kind of rise to the top or have multiple votes. Or, I thought it could be something that we could produce through Ben. As we kind of send him our votes and kind of try to be that, voice of the community, voice of the community, to really narrow down our focus into some implementable projects. City, county, FDOT, whatever land. Try to further. What do you guys think about that idea?
Countywide.
Yeah,
Not just the
countywide.
city, because
Yeah.
when Chris was here, last, it was more city-centric than county-centric. Yes, circles and stuff. That, countywide for sure. over here.
Yeah.
I think Mike could probably find a few.
Yeah.
Three, Mike, just three.
Just three, okay. I got you. Well, the first one would be Bush, that's in the city and not county.
Excluded.
Do you think
Right,
you-
right,
Do
right.
you think you could narrow that down to say a specific intersection or crossing on Bush?
Oh, sure, definitely. From 30th Street to 56.
Yeah.
Preferably 48 to 56 is the real bad time.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we're looking for, is to really narrow it down into something like implementable and something not so
Well-
expansive that, you know, the people are like, well, that's gonna be $5 million.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Just the whole area really needs improvement. Traffic, neighborhood wise, everything. Accidents, I've lived on that section for 3 years, counted over 27. 3 of them were fatalities. One of them was 3 kids and a mom in the car.
So that's the kind of knowledge that's like, we all have lived individual lives and have this individual knowledge of our city. So if we could kind of pool all of our collective knowledge, I think we can come up with some good projects. And then, you know, say we come back next week and give us a presentation on what were the ones that we flagged, what were the ones that had multiple votes kind of thing. And then we could have a discussion and go about kind of ranking them and come up with like a top 10 list or something like that. So does that sound doable for everyone to send Ben every location? Say like, they got a week or so, all as well, so kind of in advance.
Talking about like the boulevard type project specifically, like in that presentation last time.
Yeah, so like that's a great presentation to look over and review as far as jog different ones. But it's kind of like, you know, what are the ones that you feel like are the biggest barriers to go the furthest towards improving the city and the county's pedestrian cycle and bicycle.
I think it's a great idea.
So our next meeting is the 24th. May. So what do you want, maybe the 15th, that would be the Monday, a week and a half before it's cut off, the 8th?
Yeah. I think that should put a cutoff there for Ben, so you can compile it, review the data, and kind of parallel something to guide us through that conversation.
But send it to Ben.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the 8th to the 15th.
So we would discuss this at our next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the idea is to kind of like publish a sort of document that we could use as a representative of some of our top priorities. You know, we could use that to further advocate to the city, county, and DOT.
Got it. But in terms of more work on you, but could you maybe send a reminder? If they don't want.
Out to everyone, so they're all, even if they're not here today, or they hear about it.
Could you include a link to the presentation of that previous?
Last week.
Yeah.
That would be very helpful. Yeah, there's so much good information in that one. He had kind of pressed a lot of localized knowledge.
Probably invite him to send in his top 3 too. You know, while you're sending out an email, that's easy enough. I'm sure he'd actually be thrilled to hear that we did get him after the first, second.
You don't have anything else I'd like to discuss? If not, we can go on to the approval of minutes.
I have one change. Jim Sharp, check the spelling of Adam Metz's name under item Roman numeral 2. spelled MENTC, and I think it's MEDC. I changed that.
I think Ray is supposed to be GRA one, not GRA one. Although I prefer the GRA one personally.
Also, my name, Elena James, is spelled incorrectly. It's Noliy, not Noly.
Anybody else? We have a motion to amend the minutes as mentioned.
Jim Shark, I move we know the minutes as noted.
Sally Thompson, second.
Thompson, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion passes. We can go ahead and move on to our action items. So first, we've got our only item is the proposed U.S. bicycle route 15 and our Miriam Christopher office.
They need to do anything to get this good. It is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is gonna take me a minute.
That laptop needs to be actually logged into the meeting to be able to share the screen.
Okay. All right, let's see. So I just need to find the meeting ID, right?
Yeah, I can give it to you.
I got it.
Sorry, I didn't realize anybody was presenting outside stuff. I would have set that up before.
Oh. Okay, am I still not logged in?
You should just be able to start go to meeting and then enter the ID. Let me see if you popped in. I don't see.
So I have like the first name, last name, and email address login.
Okay. You can just use my email address, englishc@plancon.org, and happy001 is the super secure password that we're now broadcasting.
Okay, give me 1 second. I don't remember your email off the top of my head.
Do you want me to run it from here?
I think we were wanting to present it in this laptop, so let's give it one more try.
Okay.
Okay, Jason, I tried using your email, but it's still just giving me like a view recording, sort of.
Huh. Gail, do you have the presentation?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, just let Gail present it then. That's the easier solution.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Sorry that I wasn't set up for that. I didn't know.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, again. My name is Chris Fellerhoff. You may know me from the feedback meetings where I serve among you. But tonight I'm going to present you about the proposed US Bike Route 15 through Hillsborough County. If I could have the next slide, please, Gail. Okay, just a little bit background. The US Bike Route is a nationwide developing network of designated long distance routes that are used for long distance bicycle touring. So they're not really kind of your necessarily bike friendly, family friendly kind of routes. They're things that would be appealing and connected in such a way for people who are engaged in multi-day tours. And there is a nationwide effort to kind of make a uniform system with mapped routes and some signage and things like that that is actually coordinated by AASHTO. But the organization called Adventure Bicycling Association is tasked with proposing routes that are appropriate for such use in their existing conditions. So it's not saying build a trail or totally transform this road. It's saying where are there routes now that could connect for these long distance tours and build a nationwide system for that. And if things do get approved along the way, these things can move and change. But what they're looking at is for stuff that serves this particular cohort right now. Presently, there are 2 US bike routes already established in Florida. Those are Bike Route 1, which runs along the Atlantic coast, Bike Route 90, which kind of runs from the coast out through the Panhandle and eventually is making its way across the country. Next slide, please, Gail. But a new route is being proposed for Florida, and that's called Route 15. It currently comes into the state and kind of ends in the town of Madison, which is in Madison County, Florida. But ultimately, and where it meets Bike Route 90, but ultimately it is also planned to continue down the west side of the state and passing through Hillsborough County, just kind of in the northeast corner, on its way ultimately to Miami. And the way this works is that Adventure Cycling has its kind of volunteers out scouting these routes and recommending routes that could be considered. And these are submitted to the operating agencies of the roads or the trails that are identified. So you may recall a meeting a little bit, maybe about a year and a half ago in late of 2021. There was a gentleman named Kerry Irons spoke to the VPAC about this effort, and I was then tasked with kind of looking into what the responsibilities of the county would be and the conditions for the roads that the county's considering. So what would happen then, they suggest these routes, the county could approve them, and then we confirm that approval. If that approval would be confirmed to FDOT, who ultimately would then communicate that to AASHTO on the national level for the route to be officially adopted on those proposed roadways. And we were welcome to propose changes to the folks at Adventure Cycling or anything like that. But what was asked of us is to consider the route they proposed and either approve it or recommend changes. One of the key things that was important to clarify and understand is that the designation does not require a specific type of bike facility or obligate an operating agency to provide a specific facility in the future. It's not us promising to, if it's just a rural road with low volume traffic and no shoulder, but they find it works well enough for their experienced long distance cyclists. We are not committed to put a shoulder on it in the future. We are not committed to build a trail next to it in the future. None of that. They have said that for their purposes, the roads that they've picked are already sufficient for the cohort that they are working with. So it doesn't obligate us to anything in terms of facility construction. It does not have to meet a specific maintenance standard beyond what we would normally do anyway. It does not even obligate us to post signs. All of those are possibilities we could choose to embrace, but by accepting this route, we are not committing the county to any of that stuff above and beyond what we would do on our own initiative on these roads. Next slide, please, Gil. So the route, hard for me to even see from here, but the route, as I said, kind of clips the extreme northeast corner of the county, comes down on a state road 39A. And makes its way into Plant City on what is also called Buckman Highway, but is State Road 39A. Then jumps over. I'm gonna see this maybe. So then it cuts across Sam Allen Road and a sequence of sequences of North and South Park Road, out Coronet, Nesmith, Trapnell, and Old Mulberry roads on its way out. So it comes through kind of the heart of Plant City very quickly, and then makes its way out to Polk County. State roads are noted on there, and ultimately that would be FDOT's decision, but just noted for purposes of continuity here. And most of the roads, other roads listed there, are roads that are operated by Hillsborough County, with the exception presently of a short portion of Coronet Road, which is operated by Plant City. So if we go to the next slide, please, Gail. So what's happening next is the Plant City Commission has already endorsed this. It comes through their town, but actually uses only a very short portion of roads that they are actually responsible for. But that is already done. County staff, that would be me, have reviewed this in detail and also routed it through other county departments, engineering and operations specifically, to alert them to what could be a future concern for them around these roads. And we've gotten basically staff level recommendations to approve this. And we are recommending that the VPAC also approve this to help us move this idea forward. And the next steps then are take it to county administration for ultimate approval as they see fit, either with themselves or VOCC. But what we're asking for tonight is for the VPAC to consider this. We did talk about it in the past meetings a little bit. And then ultimately, once we get our official county approval, which hopefully your VPAC approval would help cement, we could communicate that approval on to FDOT. As just kind of side notes also, it continues on into Polk County. They have already approved it both with their VOCC and their TPO. And up in Pasco County, there was a fair amount of back and forth, but their VPAC has also approved the route as that comes down State Road 39 into Hillsborough. So it's got a lot of support amongst our neighbors already as well. So your approval would be another step to say that thanks, our staff has investigated it, our VPAC is aware of it, and ultimately for our administrators to make the decision to sign off if they so choose. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Yes.
I was going to ask about Pasco County because I know they were walking, so it's not like they're on board. I would assume that we might want to look into, assuming we approve this, maybe a link to 1792 or something, so we get into this part of the county. I mean, what do we already have that we might be able to latch on to?
We don't have a lot out there that's terribly formal, and that's one of the things presently our recommendation is not to go like into the business of kind of promoting it locally. We certainly could improve it for distribution by adventure cycling for people who are making these kind of long distance trips. But because our network out to that from like Tampa is not fully developed yet, and that's also, you know, mostly for a highly experienced road cyclist cohort. We don't want to confuse it with something that we're kind of recommending for broader use. I mean, we'd certainly ultimately, you know it's there and look to build connectivity to draw those users, you know, into the rest of the county as they pass through. To certainly kind of, you know, pull some of their business off. But right now, my thinking is that I don't think we're going to kind of actively promote it for local people to kind of go out and choose as their first bike riding on the road experience.
And I was really thinking of it for the future,
Yeah.
future opportunities.
Yeah.
Did you say what exactly this is? Is it a separate road linked next to the? Or
No,
is it part
it's
of
just, as it stands now, adventure cycling distributes GIS data to these sort of cycle computers in different formats, so people can follow the turn-by-turn directions. But in this portion, it is entirely an on-road experience.
So there's no lane.
No, but there's a shoulder on State Road 39. There are sort of intermittent shoulders on some of the roads between coming out of south of Plant City. It's just rural 2-lane roads that are low traffic. So again, there's not a consistency of facility, which is not required. But again, that's one of the reasons why I don't think we'd necessarily be promoting it locally as a fun bike route or necessarily, you know, a road that gets you to someplace you want to go on your bike if you're local. But for people passing through on a trip all the way down to Miami, this is the route that Adventure Cycling would distribute. And they used to be in the business of publishing paper maps of their long distance routes. I think they're mostly more linking just to electronic maps and things like that. FDOT presently is not in the habit of even posting the US bike route signs. But we would follow their lead on it. I don't think it would make much sense for us to post it just within the county if it's not, you know, posted on the long distance. It's really just, it's a recommended route for long distance travelers. So there's the subtotal of my kind of recommendation. There's not a reason for us to object to it. I mean, it's for a specific, very experienced cohort. It'll bring some business into the county. Ultimately, we can try to do more to bring those people to stay longer, but it's not really a local use facility in any way for the general population.
Although it could be an opportunity to work closer with Plant City, because Plant City has felt at times that we didn't pay attention to Plant City.
Well, we communicated back and forth.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about our greenway stuff and whatever.
But I mean, it's.
Sally Thompson, I'm sorry, I didn't mention it. I'll shut up.
But, I mean, so the recommendation is to kind of accept the proposed route from Adventure Cycling and communicate that at FDOT. And, you know, we will make use of it as we see fit in the future, but we're not obligated to do anything with it too quickly. And it's not going to take priority over any of the things we're developing internally for more local use.
All right, well, this is, for the record, Tim Horst, DPEC chair, and I think the idea is a great idea. I think it's great that they are gathering support and doing so in a community-based and very diplomatic way. So I'm all for supporting them in their efforts to build this community of cyclists. So if we want to have any other discussion, or if not, we can do a motion as well as Chris recommended.
I'll move approve, Sally.
So make the motion first.
Just that, I know I came in late, I apologize, I'm Victoria Klug, and you're to say that there's no additional cash outlay over and above what you are currently doing.
Correct. It comes with no commitment by the county. The folks who requested this of us said they have already scouted these roads in their existing condition. They work well enough for the cohort they are specifically serving and aren't asking us to do anything extra except to approve that to pass along that we approve it to SDT, who would then communicate that to AASHTO as well. And that would be published for people who are into that kind of trip.
Anyway, Jim Sharp, I move that we approve the US Bike Route 15 as shown in Chris Miller-Hoff's presentation.
And I'll second that, Sally Thompson.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed?
I'll just note that I abstained from my own stuff. Thank you very much.
Yep, motion's approved. All right, next, we've got a 3 status reports. One is an additional one, so just to mentally prepare. But the first one is US 41 and CSX grade separation PD&E study. Craig Fox.
Should I use my website to present? I'm logged on Go to just in case.
Okay.
Because I don't know what this is.
Right. We might want to
Greg, do you want me to pull it up? Do I have a copy of it here?
I hope so. Well, but I'm logged in to Go to just in case and I haven't.
Okay. How about, Gail, I think it should be saved in the April folder on Cody, but I will try to log into Cody, log in.
Give me a moment, please. I'm sorry, what was the name of, what is it in the folder, the presentation folder?
It should have a number 440749-1, US 41, and CSX.
Okay, let me see if I can find.
Your presentation.
Project 41 website and dev doc.
Oh, Gail, it actually ended up in the May folder. That's my bad.
It's in the May folder?
Yeah,
Okay, got it. Okay. Okay. Give me a second. I'll pull that up.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me here tonight. My name is Craig Fox. I'm a PhD project manager for the Florida Department of Transportation District 7. I'm also joined here today by a consultant, Gordon Mullen, with RK&K. This is the environmental portion of this PD study. Next slide, please. So this project is on Causeway, is on US 41. It's US 41 and Causeway Boulevard intersection, but the main focus is the CSX crossing. This is part of our overall PD&E study that was completed actually back in 1994. And this is actually a design change reevaluation from that study. And I'll have more information on this study. Next slide, please. The project purpose is to reduce traffic delays around the CSX railroad crossing to support the safe movement of freight, trucks and freight, and it has connectivity amongst bicycle and pedestrians. Now, the project need is because the delays during the peak hour due to heavy truck traffic were around up to 15% in the peak period, which is pretty high truck percentage. And also, there's heavy movement along the railroad crossing along 41. There's a switch yard just west of there, so trains often back up in order to make the switches and then to shut down traffic for a substantial amount of time. There were 372 crashes in the study area. This is over a 5-year period, with 5 unfortunate fatalities, with 1 of them being pedestrian, 8 bicycle crashes, and 3 pedestrian crashes. There's 10 train crashes at the US 41 crossing, but there have been no reported crashes at that train crossing since 2000. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned, this is part of a 1994 approved study. It was an environmental assessment, FONSI.
And those limits, it was actually along Causeway Boulevard, and it went from State Road 60 all the way to US 301. There's a distance of around 7 miles, so it's a fairly extensive and large PDD study at that time. You look there at the map, and that actually shows a proposed crossing at a flyover at US 41 and Causeway Boulevard. But the purpose of this design change reevaluation, we're just focusing on the CSX crossing to the south of there. So I don't know if you may recall, but back in 2019, we had an alternative public workshop at Tampa Port, and there were 4 alternatives proposed. One of them, the selected one, was a flyover ramp, one northbound and westbound, but that proved to be too expensive. So we kind of cut back on those limits, and so we're not doing flyover anymore. We're just crossing at that CSX at-grade crossing along 41. So it kind of pulled back from the overall kind of scope of the project, but it doesn't preclude us from, in the future from doing a potential crossing like that, if so desired. Next slide, please. So the current project location study area on Causeway Boulevard, where it's around 0.6 miles long. It's from west of South 45th Street to just west of the CSX railroad crossing. Now, if you want to note, there are 2 crossings in this overall area, so it can get a little bit confusing, but only one of them is actually within our study limit. So the crossing that I mentioned along here, this is just Causeway Boulevard, which is the east-west road. It's highlighted in blue, and there's a railroad crossing on the left edge where it sends, on the left edge, I'm sorry, the right edge, that goes north-south. That north-south crossing is not within this project study limit, so it ends just before that crossing. So whenever I talk about a rate separated crossing, I'm actually talking about the one on US 41. If you go to the next slide, please, we can talk about it. All right, so now highlighted in blue is US 41, and that railroad crossing that I mentioned is south of Causeway Boulevard, just about the center of the map there. And you kind of see that it spreads out to a bunch of different rail lines. Awesome, thank you so much for circling that. It spreads out to a bunch of different rail lines, like I mentioned, because it's switch yard west of there. So the US 41 portion is approximately 1.3 miles long. It's currently a 6-lane divided road, and the limits of the study go from Denver Street to south of South 22nd Street. Next slide, please. Now, Causeway Boulevard is an important east-west corridor. It's a predominantly industrial and commercial area with small residential pockets located along the rear parcels of the roadway. It is a hurricane evacuation route, and it is part of the strategic intermodal system west of US 41. Now, for US 41, it is also an important north-south corridor. It's also part of the critical urban freight corridor network. It's predominantly also industrial and commercial area with small residential pockets. It is part of the hurricane evacuation route, and it is part of the SIS network north on the south side of US 41. So south of Causeway Boulevard is the SIS road, and then west on Causeway Boulevard is SIS road. But if you go north of 41 or east on Causeway, it's not a SIS network. There also is a SIS railway connector on the south side of Causeway Boulevard. Next slide, please. So now I'll quickly review the existing typical sections. First, starting with Causeway Boulevard. To follow along, you can see on the map to the right, we have the areas that we're talking about highlighted in yellow. This is a little bit more confusing than a normal PD needs because it's more so an intersection. So I'll talk about both roads about as much as the other one. So that's why we have the map to assist us. So Causeway Boulevard is currently a 4-lane undivided roadway. So it has a two-way left turn crossing in the middle, and the sidewalks are 6 feet along the road today. It kind of looks familiar because I can't see the image right there. Next slide, please. For US 41, limits are from south of Denver Street to north of 23rd Avenue, as highlighted on the map to the right. South of Causeway Boulevard, it is currently a 6-lane divided roadway, and north of Causeway Boulevard, it is still a 6-lane roadway, but it does not have a median. It is just the painted 2-way left turn lanes in the center there. And I believe north of Causeway Boulevard, the sidewalks are only around 4 feet. Next slide, please. Right, onto the proposed typical sections. So now we're looking back on Causeway Boulevard. So we're maintaining the 4-lane typical section along Causeway Boulevard. So the only real change in here is probably the sidewalk width, where it's 6 feet of sidewalks, and also the medians. We are going to have a median separator instead of just the painted 2-way center left turn lane. But we are maintaining the 4-lane typical section along with 7-foot bike lane. So we do narrow up the lanes some, so we can make for a wider bike lane through that area. There's also, the road does expand at the intersection. We have the heavy turning movements, especially going north to west. So to see the details of the intersection, we're going to have those houses available at the public hearing coming up. But the typical section is mostly remaining the same as far as laying out. Next slide, please. Now, typical section 2, this is on US 41. And this area, so it's only the 2 locations that are highlighted yellow on the map. The reason being is because we have an ag grade section, one that's elevated, and then one that's on structure, on bridge structure. So you'll be able to see the difference as we go through those different sections. So for this portion, this is from south of Denver Street to north of Trenton Street, and also from 30th Avenue to 23rd Avenue. This portion is at grade. We're maintaining the current 6-lane typical section through the area. We do have the buffered bike lane, 7 feet wide, and we also have widened sidewalk 10 foot on each side of the roadway. Next slide, please. And then we transition to the elevated portion. So this is, we call it on MSE wall, mechanically stabilized earth wall. This area, this is from north of Trenton Street to south of Causeway Boulevard. We maintain, again, a 6-lane typical section through this area, along with 10-foot outside shoulders. I do want to note that the bike and pedestrian, we do transition the bike and pedestrian movements to the frontage road that is on the west side of the roadway. We will also have an additional signal at Hartford Street, which will be the location where bikes and pedestrians can transition over to the west side. There's also a sidewalk that's not shown in the section on the exit ramp that goes actually out to 36th Street, but we just don't have that shown in the typical section because the typical section represents the most common portion. So even if a pedestrian is on the east side of the roadway, we do have more than one opportunity for them to make it to the west side frontage road system. If they were on the east side, they can actually go on that ramp. There's going to be sidewalk going down to a local street that crosses over to the west side. So they won't have to deal. So if they want to, they don't have to deal with crossing 6 lanes at all. They can just take the frontage road, which is a much lower volume road, and cross it an underpass. There. That's all for this section. Next slide, please. And we have 3 proposed bridge structures at the 3 locations on the map to the right. They're located at Delaney Creek, starting from the south going north. So Delaney Creek on the south side, and then 36th Avenue. This is the second location where pedestrians will be able to cross. At Delaney Creek, I do want to note that this bridge structure is going to be pretty much at grade at the beginning where the road starts elevating. So it won't actually be kind of elevated that portion, it's just crossing the creek. So Delaney Creek and 36th Avenue, and then CSX railroad crossing along with St. Paul Street. That's going to be one bridge structure crossing. We have one bridge structure crossing the railroad and St. Paul. Next slide, please. Now, regarding stormwater management, there are no adverse or beneficial impacts to floodplains within this corridor, within this project limits. We do have 4 proposed. We do have 4 proposed stormwater management ponds at Hartford Street at 34th, and also on the north side of Causeway Boulevard. An additional 10.65 acres of right-of-way will be required for the proposed stormwater management. Next slide, please. So the PD study looks at various items covering social environment, cultural resources, natural resources in the physical environment. At the the public hearing, we'll have draft documents available. They'll be also posted to the libraries 21 days before the public hearing and also on the project website. And we'll have more information in a video presentation at the public hearing as a result of our analysis of these. Next slide, please. So the estimated project cost per design is currently $5.5 million. Right away at $49.8 million. Wetland mitigation is $75,000. With CEI coming at 12.18. Construction currently at $121 million. For a total project cost of $189.42 million. Next slide, please. This plan is consistent with the Hillsborough TPO 2045 long-range transportation plan. Next slide, please. I'll get to the funding for planning consistency on this slide. There we go. So just reviewing the schedule, this began in May of 2018, along with the data collection that's ongoing, along with environmental and engineering analysis. We had a alternatives public workshop, like I mentioned, in November of 2019, and design activity started in the summer of 2020. This is a SWAT project, so we have kind of concurrent design and going along with PD&E, although there's limits to how far we can go in design until we get an actual approved PD&E document. Public hearing is scheduled for June 1st, 2023, and we're anticipating the study approval in the fourth quarter of this year. Now, in regards to funding, that's what the right table is about. Design funding is already underway. We do have right of way through the fiscal years 2022 to 2023 through 2024, 2025, and construction is not currently funded at this time. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned, we do have the public hearing coming up June 1st. It's Thursday. It's going to be at the Port Tampa Bay, Terminal 6, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. The formal portion where folks can make official public comments is at 6:30. You'll be able to make public comments online through the court reporter available at the public hearing. You'll be able to present them in front of the crowd or talk to the court reporter one-on-one. And you can also mail in public comments also. We also will have a simultaneous virtual component via GoToWebinar. The registration, once we get it finalized, we'll be able to post that link to the project website. And the meeting public hearing location is located with that star in the top left corner of this image and in relation to the project site. Next slide, please. So the project website is listed on the screen along with the QR code. Again, my name is Craig Fox. My contact information is there on the screen along with my email address. And this is how much I've got for any questions. Thank you. Yes.
Does the bike lanes carry through on the frontage road section, or is it just a wide shoulder?
So we actually convert the bike lanes over to the sidewalk along the frontage road. So we don't have the bike lanes on the roadway. It is a low-speed road, it's around 35 miles an hour. And we do provide opportunities, actual ramps, to transition from 41 onto the wide sidewalk.
And will it be paved shoulder? Is that optional?
Well, a curb and gutter throughout, through that portion.
Can you go back to that slide?
My comment on that was that it's 41 and Causeway, that section are pretty high speed, high volume roadways. So, my idea would be to put the bike lanes on the sidewalks up, on the curb and gutter entirely. With them on. That'd be my personal riding preference. I don't know, Mike, what was yours being that?
Yeah, definite. I grew up in that Claremont area of the district when Causeway used to be a two-way lane and no sidewalk. You had to fight with the traffic. Yeah, at peak times, like you said, traffic over there is it gets to be a bit horrendous. My question is, do people actually cycle over there?
So
that you know of?
Yeah. So it's kind of evident by unfortunately that crashes, and also to the PTAR where we did take bike counts. I just don't remember off the top of my head. I actually used to work down there, and I did know some folks that actually rode before we even had sidewalks along 41. So,
Right.
so there are folks, probably mostly going to work, because there's not a ton of residents along the corridors, mostly
That's
jobs
correct.
along there. So we do have a 6-foot sidewalk still on there now. So we're gonna widen them to 10 feet also at the buffered bike lane. And the kind of methodology behind that is because we know we kind of have, kind of two groups of cyclists. There's some that are comfortable with riding in the road, and then some that aren't comfortable riding the road. And of course, if you're a road cyclist, then being just on the sidewalk alone, that can be, I know I'm kind of reaching quite a little bit, but that can feel a little more tense because then you have to deal with the driveways. And so we wanted to provide the opportunity for cyclists that are comfortable riding on the road to do so on the 7-foot buffer bike lane, and then also provide a much wider sidewalk so that cyclists that aren't too comfortable can still ride on there, but just, they have a much wider facility to ride on, and they don't have to fight with a pedestrian to kind of come in their direction. And this is why we also provide opportunities for bikes and peds to be on the frontage road system both. So the frontage road is mainly on the west side, and we kind of had to do that because CSX didn't allow, they would consider it 2 crossings if we had a northbound one and a southbound one. And we put a sidewalk on both sides so cyclists could use the one, but CSX wouldn't allow us to do that. In fact, if you have a new crossing, we actually have to consider closing 3 crossings throughout the district. So it's kind of a difficult challenge to get. It's kind of, so we can bargain them down maybe to 2 if we're lucky with 1, but it's a challenge. So that's the reason why we have the front road on this one side. But we do have opportunities for them to at least be on both sides of the road and actually cross over and not worry about crossing over the 6 lanes. So you cross at Hartford, which is going to be a new signalized intersection, and they can also cross at 30. So can you go back the slides to, let's actually go to the one where it shows the front road, please. It'll be easy for me to talk to.
Just tell me when to stop.
Yeah. Wait, stop right there. Perfect. Oh, wait. Go ahead to 1 more. Yeah, right there. Yeah, so on 36th Street, that ramp from 41 will connect down to there, and so be basically a frontage road system that connects to 36, and then they can cross west to underneath.
Oh, okay.
They can cross underneath the main line, which is going to be elevated, and have a bridge separation there. Actually, no. Can you go to the next slide? Because this is the
That's a whole lot better, because it used to be virtually impossible to even ride or cross in that area.
Yeah. So, yes, right here. So the second, if you look on the map to the right, that second yellow portion, that's 36th Avenue. Sorry, 36th Avenue, not 36th Street. That's 36th Avenue right there. So there'll be an off ramp from 41 with a sidewalk on it. That'll take bikes and pedestrians to 36. They'll be able to cross underneath that bridge structure at 36 to the frontage road on the west side. And then they'll be able to take that all the way up to 41. So designed. And there'll be also an opportunity to cross back over to the east side at St. Paul, which is the larger bridge section. So once they get past the railroad crossings, they'll also be able to cross underneath St. Paul. And we'll also have connections, another frontage road on the east side, that'll take them from St. Paul all the way up to Causeway Boulevard, or if they want to just get to St. Paul. So we kind of have to, looking at all road users, it is a heavy, very heavy truck traffic along there. The intersection there is going to be, so I do want to also give folks a word of caution. Since it is simultaneous design going on with the PDD, eventually we just have to pick a stopping point so we can get the documents finally prepared for the public hearing. So the alternative that you're going to see at the public hearing, what you're not going to see at 41 in the Causeway Boulevard intersection, which is going to be a large intersection because we're actually going to have triple rights from going eastbound Causeway to southbound, and triple lefts going northbound and westbound. So it's a fairly large intersection. So to mitigate that, we've actually added 2-stage crossings and also workshops and more pedestrian refuge islands. But those were added after we kind of put pencils down for the PDD study. So we're working on getting a graphic where we can send to you guys kind of before the public hearing, because once you look at the public hearing concept, like you're going to have rightful concerns about bikes and pedestrians because it's minimal in the concept that's going to be shown at the hearing. So we're working with the folks to kind of get that exhibit done, and we're hoping to send it to you guys give it just a heads up. Obviously, it was like before, but we just had to pick a stopping point before we had those things.
Confused by the three yellow,
Sure.
three separate bridge structures?
Yes,
Crossing
that's
different
correct.
things?
That's correct.
Okay, and the short one at the south end is the one that crosses the tracks?
Okay, so along the south end, that's Delaney Creek.
Okay,
So that's pretty much an at grade crossing. It's right off the culvert, which is converted into.
okay, but it's gonna have this cross section?
Yeah, it's gonna have that, it's gonna, oh, okay, so it'll have that cross section, but it'll also be sidewalks on it too.
Okay.
That's not shown on this section. So, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so there are the 10-foot sidewalks.
Okay.
We're not just putting people on the shoulder.
But the frontage road hasn't started yet, where the creek?
At this point, where are we? So the front road has started.
Okay.
Actually, wait, you know what? Sorry, it's wrong. So the front road actually started at Hartford, which is south of there. So the ramp actually takes you off there. So around that first kind of square is where we start. Actually start the ramp going over to 36. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not up and down, up and down. It's going to start elevating at Delaney Creek and then continue on over 36, over St. Paul, and then come back down. So basically from the start of Delaney all the way to St. Paul will be elevated in some fashion, but we'll have parallel facilities.
So that's the cuts in the yellow line are where.
That's just showing the actual bridge crossing structure themselves. Structure, but it'll all be elevated.
Okay, so you won't be able to get through it except on the roads that it's crossing, which is 36. Okay, so you'll be up in the air on this road if you keep it straight. Will those shoulders, will bicycles be prohibited from them?
So because it's an arterial, so we can't prohibit bicycles from an arterial road.
Right.
It doesn't want to prohibit it on limited access facilities. So cyclists could take the shoulder, but we just,
Right, but they would have the option to go to the.
Yes.
And when the sidewalks, you have sidewalks on both sides in your typical section of the main line of the road. Then when the structure starts,
So
they'll have to go to the frontage road.
Yeah, so Hartford is basically kind of where you'll start to end the at-grade portion. So between Hartford and Delaney Creek is where we kind of start to elevate it. And there'll be, so Hartford, you'll be able to, you'll be able to go up 41, and there's gonna be kind of like a shortcut crossing over to the frontage road system. And we're also creating a loop road. So actually, if you go to, can you go forward to the stormwater slide? Because this will show what we're talking about. Yes, right there. Okay, so if you look at the image on the leftmost image, north is to the right. So US 41 is going northbound to the right now. And can you scroll down just a little bit? There you go. Okay, so this shows it perfect. Actually, let me just walk over there.
I understand.
So I'm sorry if you're online. I'll try to be as descriptive as possible. All right, so this is US 41 going northbound, and this is Hartford Street. So, and this is the front road system. So we're actually looping it around here, and we have to do that because we have a lot of comments from businesses around that area that the old configuration, it made it really difficult for trucks, and then we had to design this coming in basically a merge lane into like a right turn lane, which is not ideal whatsoever. So we created this loop road, and it's wider so that it can accommodate 18 wheelers making those turns. Now, bikes and pedestrians, if you go, so I'll start on the east side of the road. You go east side of the road here, you go northbound along here, and then right around here, you see it kind of deviate a little that way. That's where, so this portion here is where it starts to transform to that, it starts to go into that bridge structure. And I know wrong. So we don't have on the bridge structure because right here is where we start to, right here is that actual kind of like off ramp onto the front road system. So that takes to the front road system, which goes into 36th Street, which we cross underneath US 41.
Okay, so if you're coming northbound walking or biking, you could either turn left on Hartford to go get on the actual frontage road up there on the far side of the pond. Or,
But,
you could go straight and you'll get a ramp off of the bridge as it develops.
yeah. And then if you go north on here, we actually have a crossing that crosses the street. So it's not like you have to go all the way around here
Okay.
and all the way around there just to go north. No, because, people can take the pathways.
Right, so on both sides of the road, you'll have a way,
Yes,
I guess, to stay at grade when the road starts to elevate.
that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. It will not be a sidewalk on the bridge structures.
And that sidewalk will be 10 feet wide to
Yeah.
accommodate both bikes and pedestrians.
Yes.
So you're gonna have a designated bike lane to the north up to Hartford Street. My correct?
Yeah.
So designated bike lane.
Yeah.
What happened, I mean, this is gonna be confusing, but it's like, they're gonna stay on that side of the road, probably end up on the bridge unless you have a designated signage or side bike lane that shows them how to get to the front street. Especially going down the ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just see, you go on that bike lane, you head right for that bridge, ramp goes off to the right, there's nothing telling them that's how you get to the front of it.
Yeah.
Guess there's only one way to find out. I just gotta ride down.
No. So we can certainly add some sort of signage to help out with that decision. On the north side of the park, we're calling Boulevard, we're actually gonna have an opportunity for folks to, for cyclists actually get onto the sidewalk. So we can kind of the same thing down here in Simon, so to make it easier.
But once those ramps come clear of the elevated section,
Yeah.
right, they'll come to a point, what maybe that's 36th Street,
Yeah,
or something,
36th.
where they could then cut over
Yeah.
under the bridge
Exactly.
to go connect to the main portion of the frontage road, right?
Yes.
But then the frontage road still crosses the railroad track at grade?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and that's just favorable because that'll be lower traffic than 41.
Yes.
obviously. But the pedestrians and bikes would still be crossing the railroad track
Yes, I agree.
unless someone chooses to break the shoulder on the bike.
Yes.
And is there a similar kind of displacement to the frontage road on the north end? Like that they start coming down, I guess what you've got kind of highlighted in that bluish green color is the sidewalk ramp thing.
Down here, or are you talking about?
But once you get to the north, across the bridge, right, if you get into the bridge from the other end.
Yeah. It's going south on 41.
Yeah, from Causeway, you're gonna start with normal sidewalks and bike lanes, but those will peel off into those ramp things also coming from that direction. And ultimately connect people to the frontage road. Does the frontage road go all the way to Causeway?
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, that's the question. So the two-way frontage road goes as far north as 30th. At that point, it'll transition we'll transition traffic, to go into the local network, in the southwest quadrant. We're also gonna open up a new signal at 47th, to provide folks access out. But the sidewalk will continue all the way, so this is called the Boulevard right here, this is where sidewalk will continue all the way up to US 41 at that intersection. And we're also gonna have a sidewalk on the east side too. And the east side sidewalk, that connects down to St. Paul, the bridge of St. Paul. So we just can't cross the railroad tracks on both sides, but we're gonna have some form of frontage road system and sidewalk system on both sides. They'll just have to cross the CSX on the one side.
Okay, so people coming from the north will cut through to the frontage road at St. Paul.
If they
are on the east side of the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they could cut back to 36.
Yeah.
It would be cool to have a graphic that kind of showed all of that in one
Yeah.
view for the benefit.
And we're going through the final reviews of it now, it's just that it's not finalized, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'd echo Chris, this is John Kavicki. I'd echo Chris's comments of showing where the bike and ped movements are going to be. They're not going to be on the bridge structure. where will they be, so that it's clear for everybody. I would encourage you to consider, I know you're doing the 10-foot sidewalk, right on the back of curb, no offset. I'd consider shared use path type elements. I know that's right of way impact most likely, but you are taking right away for this project, kind of seems like an afterthought. Just the security at those over, or at the, where you go underneath it, making sure that's very visible. And if you deviate the bike and ped movements away from motor vehicle traffic, making sure that they've got a safe passage, that there's not any areas that would be dark and difficult for them to traverse at night.
Yeah, so we did just go ahead and actually add lighting to the front roads. I think normally we don't really do that because the road gets lighted enough. So at least the standards by the main line, but we are gonna have lighting along the front roads too.
Well, in that underpass section too, especially under the bridge. But yeah, I would echo that a 10-foot sidewalk where you've kind of taken away the on-road bike facility is essentially a shared use path. So it should be maximally separated and buffered from the, and a shared use path at the back of the curb is not a great thing. You should try to separate it as much as you can.
Yeah, because that goes back to my preference to just put a shared use path with like a buffer as opposed to it on street lighting. So I'll feel that way, but this project came through, gosh, probably what, 3 years ago? I don't know, it's forever ago, but they have like 4 different alternatives. And I guess that's why I went to just like rework things, they couldn't like get one figured out.
Well, we gotta figure it out. And so, okay, will you go back, you build something, or we just keep it the same thing and stay?
Is that what happened to like they, like all 4 of those options that were previously in the project were too expensive?
Well, this option here is sort of built from the selection alternative, which was the northbound, westbound flyover ramp. We just took out the flyover ramp. So what is that option? Just minus.
All right, thank you so much for answering all our questions and taking all of our comments. Kind of helpful. Anyone have anything else for him? Greg wants with us. Thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Yeah. You mentioned Shaka at the center.
Yeah. Shaka is up next with the 2050 needs assessment for congestion management and crash mitigation.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, 1 second. And can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, PPAC committee members. This is Vishaka Shivraman for the record. I'm TPO staff, and today I'm going to be presenting the 2050 Plan Needs Assessment report for the congestion management and crash mitigation. As part of LRTP production, and if you remember from the previous presentation, we are preparing a lot of needs assessment studies, and currently this is prepared for the safety and travel time reliability as part of the TPO's long range transportation plan with the help of a consultant. As you might be aware of, that we have 5 funding investment categories that have been identified in our LRTP for funding transportation projects. And they are the state of good repair and resilience, Vision Zero, smart cities, real choices when not driving, and major investments for economic growth. In this needs assessment, we'll be identifying 2 of the we will be doing a needs assessment for 2 of the safety buckets, namely the Vision Zero and the smart cities. And the benefits of the needs assessment is to identify specific levels of performance based on the available revenue and to determine how the network will perform based on the crashes and the travel time reliability. This will benefit the performance measures and help to set the targets for the future. So going into a little more technical details about the performance measures, the needs assessment serves as the foundation document for updating the performance measures for the upcoming years. These are some of the performance measures indications, some of the measures that we use at the TPO. Under the system performance, we look at the reliability index, which is the 8. So let me tell you that these system performance measures are mainly for planning the vehicular travel time. Sometimes we know that we plan for a travel time and the reliability might be different every time. So a 20-minute ride can be sometimes 5 minutes versus sometimes 40 minutes. So for planning all those, we use these reliability index, which is the 80th percentile travel time, the planning time index, which is the 95th percentile travel time over the free flow travel time, and the vehicular miles traveled and vehicle hours. In terms of freight movement on the interstate, we measure the reliability in terms of truck travel time reliability. For the congestion management and air quality mitigation program, we measure the peak hour excessive delay, called PHED. And for the safety, we measure the number of fatal, serious injury crashes and property damage crashes, in addition to the bicycle and pedestrian crashes, which are the non-motorized crashes. Just to give you a quick background, this project is developed by the Federal Highway Administration's second Strategic Highway Research Program, SHRP, for transportation investment planning. This is a part of a sketch planning spreadsheet, which has been developed for estimating the economic safety and travel time reliability. The tool is mainly used to estimate the economic impact of transportation investments, including market access, connectivity, and travel time reliability. And I would also like to tell you that the data that we use for this travel time reliability and safety reliability is based on the TB RPM, which is the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Model Network that we produce at District 7, and they maintain it, and using the 2045 loaded network output. Our model output gives data on future volume, travel time, etc., and few algorithms that are developed, which will help which will run and give an estimate of the forecast crashes, time of delay, location, and the travel time reliability. The corridors which are selected for the analysis include the TPO's high injury network and other priority corridors that have been defined by local government partners. We meet with them and we define those we define the corridors where these treatments need to be done. The analysis, so this is again a little bit more into the methodology of how this analysis is done. This is called a post-processor tool because it uses the output from the model network and the original algorithm of the SHRP tool, and it processes those models to reveal the poorly performing links in terms of safety and travel time reliability. These the links which we use as part of the model network are very small units of geography. To identify them as projects, we need longer sections, mainly corridors, which will be a combination of multiple links, typically about 1 to 5 miles in length. When we convert the links into corridors, they are sorted based on worst crashes and worst travel time reliability. And these are the corridors that are selected for the treatments. There are mainly 4 types of corridors that we look at, which is called based on the facility type. We look at urban freeways, divided arterials, undivided arterials, and others local roads. And the study that comes out of the revenue forecast helped to determine what kind of enhancements we can do and to what level of funding we had to implement them. Again, this slide will help you to understand a little bit more about the calculation. The projects as I mentioned in the earlier slide, are selected based on the highest to the lowest ranking for the crashes and travel time reliability. And on these corridors, we apply the benefit cost ratio for each improvement type that we have been identified. And we also look at how they can be bundled to suit the roadway needs. There are mainly three types of improvements that we assess here. The first one is the low cost improvements that are currently being used by our partner agencies and that they are currently implementing. Then a high level of improvement will be based on the highest cost benefit ratio, utilizing all the money that is available. And a third category is the middle value improvements, which are realistic and which can be applied. This slide will just give you a schematic diagram showing how what I just explained in the previous slides. By using the 2045 TBRPM loaded network and the crash data, we run the algorithm, and which gives two sets of project lists. One is the safety project list and one is the operation project list. And these are identified at corridor levels. This slide, so moving on to the safety and the reliability improvements, this slide will help you to understand what are some of the potential safety and operational improvements. Some of the potential safety improvements that have been identified in consultation with the local jurisdictions and our partner agencies are shown here. The treatments like street lights and sidewalk treatments can be applied at a lower cost. And some of the higher cost treatment include complete street treatments and other full-blown treatments depending on the length and context of the roadway. Again, these are developed based on coordination with our local government partners based on what they decide is the best treatment that could be potentially used. Additionally, we also look at FDOT's resource, which is a CMF clearing house for crash modification factor, and establish the benefit of each of the improvements. This is a similar list for some of the potential improvements that have been either used by our partner agencies or that could be used for some of our treatments. Again, these also depend on the type of the roadway and the context where it could be applied. Treatments like ramp metering, part-time shoulder use, variable speed limits, etc., could be applied to urban freeways, and some of the other treatments, including signal retiming, loop detection, and incident management, can be applied to some of the arterials. We also look at the local government partners for consultation and also the DOT's traffic operation strategies document to get a better estimate and an idea of what potential operational improvements we could implement. And this is the last slide that I will be presenting today. It just gives you an idea of some of the other studies in conjunction, which is happening as part of the LRTP production. Like I said, the study that I just presented to you is currently in the works, and we will bring this back to the committees and the board sometime this year, hopefully in the fall. We are also doing the revenue forecast study, and in the fall we will be conducting other studies, including the truck route plan, the good repair, the needs assessment for good repair resilience, and real choices when not driving. And in 2024, we'll be developing the growth forecast, cost affordable plan, and the adoption will be in 2024 November. Most of these studies will come to the committees, and the final project will go in front of the TPO board and the committees before November 2024. With this, I can take any questions at this time.
I have a question, Vishaka. This is Chris Fellerhoff. You showed in your safety performance measures that bike and ped crash, I guess it's not rates, it's crash numbers would be one of the things you're looking at. Are there any other specific bike ped measures like up in your system performance section?
Yes, thank you for the question. So I did show you some of the potential safety improvements that we will be doing. which will be targeting the vulnerable population, and crosswalks are a good fit that could fit. And again, these depend upon the type of roadway where it is implemented by, and also the local and the coordination with local governments, what they desire. So the most appropriate treatment that will yield the highest benefit to cost ratio will be considered as one of the improvement for that road.
So that's out of the crash modification factors or a way of assessing a benefit of a proposed improvement.
Yes, crash modification factor gives a value to the. I mean, it ranks the. I believe it is a number that helps to understand what will be the benefit for that project, and it's based on multiple studies. So the data that supports it should be strong to support that kind of an improvement. So if that yields that'll, if it shows that will provide the most bang for the buck, then we could recommend that as a potential treatment for that particular corridor. Again, this is just want to make clear that these are not selected for a particular roadway, but this is just in general for a 4-lane divided arterial like so. So it will be just like a generalized treatment recommended for a particular corridor that meets certain specifications.
Okay, but I guess still what we're looking at though is both in terms of the existing system performance measures and the manner of calculating benefits are all kind of related to crashes directly. There's not like a general mobility measure or convenience factor for bike and peding. It's the presence or absence of crash incidents are what we're counting with regard to bikes and pedals. Or the improvement would reduce the likelihood of crashes as a benefit, but the measure of a given facility or the system, its performance for bikes and pedals is exclusively measured as frequency of crashes and changes there too. Is that correct?
I was thinking there was more like a comment, but I can look. I can get back to you on that question.
All right, thank you so much, Vishaka. Great presentation. And I guess we will hear from you again. Sometime in the future, maybe.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear the across from the room. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess Gail, could you let her know that it's all good and she can call a wrap?
Yeah, Vishaka, there's no other questions. They're good.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
All right. Next, we've got the City of Tampa Safe Streets and Roads for All grant implementation. Our very own Kelly Grant. Yeah.
Yeah, just prepare it.
This is.
No,
I'm working on it.
I was really bad.
Oh, you got it? Do you need me to do it or?
Wait a minute. That was Chris's. Okay, did you email? Okay, you don't have it right now.
No, Alex did it at local roadways and CNC, but.
Okay, I can find it.
Emailed it to you.
Okay, give me just 1 minute.
I've got it up if you want me to run the slides.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, so it was just a different one.
There it is. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Okay, well, I will make this really quick since it wasn't on the agenda. Sorry, everybody, for keeping you a little bit longer. But this is our presentation from the city of Tampa for the grant that we just won, Safe Streets for All. So if you could advance it to that next slide. So Safe Streets for All was part of a new federal grant. We're really excited to have been awarded this grant, especially because it's one of the first times the federal government has given money to cities and counties directly. So it's been a new process, and this is the first year that's gone in effect. We were one of the award winners as well as Hillsborough County, so they might be able to tell you more about the projects they've got coming up, but I'll just go through the ones briefly that the city won. So the purpose of the grant, it was called Safe Streets for All, and it's really two parts. There was a section to develop a safety action plan, or there's a section to do implementation. So at the city, we've done our Vision Zero action plan, which meant that we were in a good place to apply for implementation funds. Next slide. So this is a picture of our Vision Zero action plan, which is on our website, but really the purpose of the grant was to implement projects on something like a high injury network. We've already done the data analysis to show where your crash is occurring and what type of strategies are you going to be using. Next slide. So this is our high injury network. It's also on our website, but 24% of our road miles have accounted for 73% of our fatalities. So this was really the bedrock of our grant application and really the bedrock of the grant application program just across, all cities and counties. Next slide. So we were lucky enough to be awarded $20 million, which I know I've given the moves presentation on kind of the city and where we are in developing our plan and our financial constraints. So our capital budget, to remind you all, is about $11 million per year. So this is 20 million, so we're very excited. About double what we currently have to work with every year. And it's going to be focused specifically mostly on our high injury network, which you can find in our Vision Zero action plan. And we submitted the grant with kind of 3 different buckets, and part of that included what we call triage projects. So our high injury network, we've already shown these are areas that need projects to go in, and they need to go in, sooner rather than later, because we're showing that there's a lot of crashes there. We also used some projects that we've partnered with the TPO before. So we last year did the safe routes to school. We prioritized a couple schools and made recommendations on those. And we also did a safe routes to parks application. So we included those. So they're also included and we'll have funding. Almost 75% of our funding will be spent on projects in underserved communities. So federal government's kind of identified what they call the Justice 40 areas. And it lines up pretty similar to the communities of concern that the TPO has done. So when we applied for the grant, we picked the high injury network projects that are in underserved communities, because that was really what the grant's focused on. Next slide. So the idea behind them is that the projects need to be implemented in 5 years. So we're really talking like safety countermeasures that are easy to implement, crosswalks where we don't have them, sidewalks where we don't have them. In some corridors, there's an opportunity to do bike lanes and do some lane narrowing, and just overall looking at how can we slow speeds down and enhance our laning. Next slide. So there's a map, which it might be a little hard to see at this scale, but just in general, these are the projects that are included in the application. So this slide here shows you the ones in East Tampa, Ybor area. We have some projects in various stages. So some of them will be, maybe a little bit more transformative just based on how much right of way we have. Like Hannah Avenue has a lot of sidewalk gaps, so that's an opportunity to fill that corridor in and improve the sidewalks there. ARDC, 14th Street, we actually have a quick build going on now, so we're putting in our first parking protected bike lane, but there's also an opportunity to add some more crossings when we come back into this project. Next slide.
And then these are the projects in West Tampa. So we are kicking off a charrette for Havana Avenue. It'll be on our website shortly, and I will send Ben the information when we get the date to send it out to all of you if you're interested in attending. There'll also be a project website if you have any feedback, but it's Havana from MLK to Hillsborough, so right by the hospital. That'll be a big project. We also have Main Street in West Tampa, and kind of that's been a high priority in the community. Yep, kind of that area with the businesses all the way towards where all that redevelopment is happening. And then we also have some schools that were identified with the TPO. Next slide. We're North Tampa. These are the ones where we looked at Copeland Park, so that's why 15th and 109th are all in there, and Shaw Elementary. These are kind of regionally divided. Next slide. Downtown. So we just had a charrette on Twig Street, but the project website is still open, and there's material on there, so you can contact directly our project manager for it. But Twig Street is one we heard very loudly from the community that just biking and the sidewalk is down to like 4 feet in some sections. So a lot of opportunity on Twig Street especially. So if you do have any comments and want to make them and couldn't attend the meeting, it's still an opportunity to do that. We're looking for feedback. And then Scott Street, kind of by the interstate. That's a big barrier we hear a lot, especially when you're trying to bike and walk.
Yeah.
You can't really cross. Yeah. There's only a portion of Scott Street that is city owned, so that and then transit routes, we also included a small ask in the grant for funding. So we're going to be working with HART to kind of understand if there's some crossings that we can add or small infrastructure improvements that we can make. These are the routes that we included in our grant application. They go through roads that aren't maintained by the city and some that are. So we're going to kind of work through it with HART to figure out what makes the most sense to implement. Next slide. So next steps will be to do all the planning and project development for these. Some of these will be a little bit more streamlined, lighting enhancements, or there's some pavement marking that we can just go out and do. Some of them, like McDill and Havana, have the opportunity to be more transformative, and there's a lot more opportunities. So we'll be doing public outreach. I do want to caution that in the past, it's taken us about a year to do our federal grant agreement. So we aren't going to necessarily be able to start all of them tomorrow, but we're in the process already of working through that. I'm optimistic we'll be able to start soon. And with that, we'll be doing more public outreach. So that is all I have. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Oh yeah, we also have an upcoming quick build that's under construction right now. So if you drive through 14th, we're out there building a like next slide. I think that's all I have. Yeah, and if you have questions, you can contact Alex. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
Quick question on, I saw you had West Tampa Jacksonville Tree.
Yeah.
And I noted that just it's closed. Should you be looking somewhere else to do improvements or?
Yeah, so for Just Elementary, we had included it because it's literally next to Johnson Stewart and Blake, it's across the street. So when we did the study, it made more sense to group them all together. So the improvements that we would have done, we will probably take into consideration if maybe those students are now going to West Tampa Elementary, or there's still some improvements in the area we can make. And Stewart is still the middle magnet, but it's still there. So it'll still be in the area.
Just like shift a little bit maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a school right on Main Street.
Dunbar. Yes, we have funds for Main Street itself, so we didn't include Dunbar, but if there's an opportunity to make
right along the time.
Yeah, improvements we find on the Main Street. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? So thank you so much. It's very exciting. All right. Well, I don't see that we have any old business, new business, so we can go ahead and.
Jim Shirk, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second, Sally Jones.
All right. I think we're all ready for this one to go. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.